The galaxy was on fire. The mighty Zilari Empire, known for its shining cities and proud warriors, was under attack. From distant planets came a coalition of cruel warlords, each hungry for the fall of the great empire. Starships battled in the dark of space, their weapons lighting up the void like dying stars. Among the defenders stood not only the Zilari but also their human allies. Humanity had joined the Empire only a few years earlier, after Earth faced its own near destruction. Humans were known for their spirit, their will to survive, and their strange ability to keep fighting even when hope was lost. One of them was Elias Trent, a soldier from Earth's small colony on Mars. He wasn't a commander or a hero in the official records. He was just a soldier, disciplined, loyal, and brave. But he had something rare, the kind of courage that appeared only when the situation was most hopeless. Elias was stationed on Zithera, the Empire's capital world, a place of green skies and silver mountains. Floating cities circled the planet, connected by shimmering bridges of light. The most beautiful of these cities was Lunaris, home to the royal family, Queen Seraphine and her only daughter, Princess Leora. The queen was respected and feared, known for her wisdom and sharp judgment. Her daughter Leora was young and kind-hearted, always curious about other races, especially humans. She often visited the human soldiers' camps to learn about their customs and stories. That was how she met Elias for the first time. He remembered that day clearly. She had asked him, "Why do humans always smile even during war?" Elias had laughed softly and said, "Because sometimes that's all we have left." That small moment stayed with both of them, though neither guessed how much it would mean later. The day of the attack was supposed to be a day of peace. The Queen was hosting a summit with her generals to discuss ending the war. Elias and his team were assigned as part of the security detail near the palace gates. But then, the alarm sounded. The sky darkened with enemy ships breaking through the defense grid. Explosions shook the ground. The protective shields around Lunaris flickered and failed. Enemy drop pods began raining down like falling meteors. Within minutes, chaos filled the palace. Guards rushed to protect the royal family as the attackers, the Vorak clan, savage and ruthless, broke through the walls. Elias heard the command over his comms. "Protect the princess at all costs." He sprinted through the golden halls, laser fire flashing past. Smoke filled the air. He turned a corner and saw Princess Leora, trapped between two collapsing pillars. "Princess." "This way!" he shouted. Her eyes widened in recognition. "Elias." Before she could move, a group of armored Vorak warriors appeared. Their weapons glowed with red energy. Elias didn't think, we just acted. He fired his rifle, hitting one of them in the chest. But there were too many. He grabbed Leora's hand and pulled her behind a fallen column. "Stay down!" The enemy surrounded them. Elias's rifle clicked, empty. He switched to his sidearm, then his combat knife. One by one, he fought them off, every move fueled by instinct and desperation. He wasn't fighting for victory anymore, only for time. "Why are you doing this?" Leora cried as she hid behind him. Elias grinned, blood on his face but eyes steady. "Because I promised to protect you." That's what soldiers do. A final blast echoed through the hall. A Vorak sniper appeared in the doorway, weapon charged. Leora saw the beam first and screamed, "Elias, no!" But it was too late. Elias turned, saw the shot, and without hesitation, jumped in front of her. The plasma bolt hit him square in the chest. The force threw him backward into her arms. He gasped, the burning wound glowing through his armor. "Told you. Humans never break a promise," he whispered, his voice fading. Then he was still. The aftermath. The palace guards arrived moments later and eliminated the remaining attackers. Reinforcements from the human division arrived soon after. But it was too late for Elias. Princess Leora knelt beside his still body, tears falling silently. Her hands shook as she pressed them against his chestplate. "He saved me. He shouldn't have done that." Her mother, Queen Seraphine, arrived shortly after. The proud queen, always calm, always unshaken, stopped in her tracks when she saw the scene. A human soldier lying dead, his body between her daughter and certain death. "What happened here?" she asked softly. Leora looked up, voice trembling. He saved me. He gave his life." The queen knelt beside Elias's body. For a long time she said nothing. Then she whispered, "He was human?" "Yes," said Leora. "He was one of the Earth soldiers." Seraphine's eyes softened for a brief moment, something her court had rarely seen. A human, she murmured. A fragile creature of flesh and bone, yet braver than most of my own kind. She turned to her guards. Take him to the royal chamber. Treat his remains with honor. He will not be forgotten. The Queen's reflection later that night, Queen Seraphine sat alone in her throne room. Outside the great windows, the stars burned quietly, distant and cold. She watched the holographic report replay, the human soldier's last moments. How he fought against impossible odds. How he shielded her daughter with his own body. How he smiled at the end. Her advisors entered, bowing deeply. Your Majesty, the human's body will be returned to his people for burial. No, the Queen said calmly. He will stay here. He died protecting Zalari blood. He will be honored as one of us. But Majesty, one advisor protested, he was not of our kind. His body will decay quickly in our environment. Then preserve him, Seraphine interrupted. Use the royal cryovault. Let him rest in peace undisturbed. The room went silent. No one dared argue further. The Queen was not known for mercy, but her decisions were final. When everyone left, she walked alone to the chamber where Elias now rested. His body lay inside a transparent capsule of soft blue light. His face was calm, almost peaceful. Seraphine stood there for a long time, her expression unreadable. Finally, she spoke quietly. Not as a queen, but as someone moved by something she didn't understand. You gave your life for what was not yours to protect, she said. You could have run. You could have saved yourself. Yet you did not. She placed her hand on the glass. Perhaps humans are not as weak as we believed. Behind her, Princess Leora entered. She stood beside her mother and whispered, He smiled at the end, Mother. Even when he was dying. Seraphine closed her eyes for a moment. Then let his name be remembered. Let the stars carry it. Elias Trent, the human who saved the royal line. The Queen turned to leave, but for a heartbeat her gaze lingered on his face. There was a strange heaviness in her chest, a feeling she had not known in years. She whispered softly as she left the chamber, Rest well, human. Your story has only begun. And so the tale of Elias Trent, the human soldier who gave his life for the alien princess, spread through the empire. Some called him a fool, others called him a hero. But in the heart of the Queen of Zithera, something deeper had awakened, something that would soon change the fate of both their worlds forever. Days passed since the battle that had shaken the Zalari capital. The palace was being rebuilt, but the memory of that dark day refused to fade. The royal guards had survived, the princess was safe, and the warships of the enemy had been pushed back. Yet peace felt hollow. Something had been lost, and in the heart of Queen Seraphine, something new had begun to stir. The Chamber of Silence. Deep below the royal palace lay the Chamber of Silence, a place where only the Queen was allowed to enter. It was here that the body of Elias Trent rested inside a crystal coffin, surrounded by gentle blue light. His face was calm, his hands folded neatly across his chest, his armor polished as if waiting for a final salute. Every night, Seraphine came alone to the chamber. She would stand before the glass watching the human who had died to save her daughter. At first, she came out of duty, to honor a brave soldier. But soon it became something more. She found herself speaking softly to the silent figure as if he could hear her. You were not my subject, she whispered one evening. You owed me nothing, yet you gave everything. Why? Her voice echoed faintly through the cold chamber. No one answered. Still, she stayed there for hours, just staring at the peaceful expression on the human's face. He looked strangely alive, Mo, as though he might open his eyes at any moment. The princess and her guilt up in the higher halls. Princess Leora struggled with her own emotions. She could not forget Elias, his bravery, his smile, and the way he had stood before danger without fear. Every night she dreamt of that moment, the flash of light, his body falling, her scream echoing in the burning hall. She often visited the cryo chamber too, standing silently beside her mother. I wish I could thank him, she said one evening, her voice trembling. I didn't even get to say goodbye. The Queen placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. He already knew, child. Heroes do not need to hear thanks. But he was human, Leora said softly. They live such short lives, and yet he used his last one to save me. How can we ever repay that? Seraphine looked at her daughter's tearful face and felt something sharp inside her heart, a feeling that was both pain and admiration. That night, she made a decision. The Forbidden Order the next morning. Seraphine called her royal scientists and generals into the throne hall. When they gathered before her, she spoke in her calm but commanding tone. "You will begin a new project. It is to be called Project Dawn." Her chief scientist, Dr. Varex, frowned in confusion. "Majesty, what is the purpose of this project?" "The human," she said simply. "Elias Trent." The room went silent. "You will study his body," she continued. "Preserve every cell, every trace of life. If there is even the smallest spark of energy left within him, I want it found." Varex hesitated. "Your Majesty, what you are suggesting is beyond allowed research. Revival technology was banned centuries ago. It is against the laws of nature." "The laws of nature," Seraphine interrupted coldly, "were written by those who feared progress." The council exchanged uneasy looks. "But Majesty," another advisor spoke, "reviving the dead has never been done." "Even if his body is intact, his soul—" "I did not ask for his soul," Seraphine said firmly. "I asked for his life." Her tone left no room for argument. At last Dr. Varex bowed. "As you command, my queen. We will begin at once." When the hall emptied, Seraphine stood alone once more. She looked out the tall window at the stars beyond and whispered to herself, "You gave your life for mine. I will not let that be the end of your story." The beginning of Project Dawn weeks turned into months. Deep inside the royal laboratory, the best minds of the Empire worked in silence. Machines hummed softly. Energy fields pulsed with light. Elias's body was moved to a medical pod filled with a glowing blue liquid. Life essence, a rare substance said to restore damaged cells. His brain was scanned repeatedly, his heart cells tested, his DNA carefully analyzed. Most of the scientists believed it was hopeless. But then something unexpected happened. One night, Dr. Varex noticed a faint signal in the neural readings, a flicker like a heartbeat lost in silence. He ran the test again. The signal repeated. He could hardly believe it. He rushed to the Queen's chambers and fell to his knees. "Majesty, we detected activity. Neural sparks. It is faint, but it's there." Seraphine's eyes widened for the first time in years. "You mean he still lives?" "Not exactly alive," Varex said carefully, "but not gone either. There is something holding on." The Queen stood still for a long moment. Then she said softly, "Then we will not stop until he opens his eyes again." Whispers in the Empire news traveled fast in the royal court. The servants whispered, "The Queen is trying to bring back the dead." The nobles murmured in secret, "She has lost her reason." The generals argued, "A human's life is not worth such risk." But Seraphine ignored them all. Every day she visited the laboratory, watching the process closely. The scientists worked tirelessly under her silent gaze, afraid to fail her. Princess Leora, too, began to visit. She would sit quietly beside the pod, telling stories about Earth that she had read from old archives, about blue skies, oceans, and the sound of rain. "Maybe he can hear me," she said one day. Seraphine didn't answer, but deep down she hoped it was true. The Queen's reflection one evening. As she stood before the pod, Seraphine saw something strange. A tiny movement and the faintest twitch of Elias's fingers. She froze, unsure if it was real or her imagination. She called Dr. Varex immediately. He ran scans and confirmed it. The human's nerves were responding. It was the first real sign of life. That night, Seraphine couldn't sleep. She walked through the empty halls of the palace, her mind filled with thoughts she didn't understand. Why did this human matter so much? She had lost countless soldiers before, Solari warriors who had fought bravely. But none of their faces stayed in her mind like his. Was it gratitude? Guilt or something else entirely? Something she didn't have a name for? She returned to the chamber and looked at him again. His face, calm and peaceful, seemed to carry the same quiet strength he had in life. She spoke softly, almost as if afraid to break the silence. "Elias, if you can hear me, come back. The Empire still needs your courage. I need it." Her hand rested gently on the glass. For a moment she thought she saw his eyelids flicker, but when she looked again, they were still. The promise a few days later. The Galactic Council sent a message to the Queen. They had heard of Project Dawn. The message was clear and strict. Cease your experiment. Revival of the dead is forbidden by interstellar law. You are risking the wrath of the Council. Her advisors begged her to obey. Majesty, they could sanction our world. This project could bring war. Seraphine stood in silence for a moment, then said quietly, Let them come. The stars may judge me later. But today I will keep my promise. And what promise, Majesty? Varix asked carefully. She turned to face the glowing pod. That a human's courage will not die in the dark. Not while I live. Her eyes softened as she looked at Elias. You gave your life for my daughter. Now I will give everything to return yours. As the lights of the laboratory dimmed, the human's heart monitor flickered faintly. One beat, then another. A miracle was beginning. The palace was silent when it happened. For months, the Queen and her scientists had waited, watching, hoping that something, anything, would happen inside the glowing pod where the human hero slept. Many believed it was impossible, but that night the impossible became real. The lights in the laboratory flickered and the monitors began to beep rapidly. The blue liquid inside the pod shimmered and turned golden for a few seconds. Dr. Varix ran into the room, his heart racing. Majesty. His vital signs are returning, brain activity, heart rate, everything. Queen Seraphine came running, her long silver robe flowing behind her. She stopped in front of the pod, eyes wide with disbelief. Elias's body jerked once, twice, then his eyes opened. For a long moment he only stared upward, blinking as if he was seeing light for the first time. The Queen could hardly breathe. The impossible had happened. The human who had given his life months ago was alive again. Awakening, Elias gasped for air and coughed, his chest heaving. The machines hissed as the liquid drained away. Slowly the pod opened and he fell forward into the arms of the waiting medics. His voice was hoarse, dry, confused. Where am I? Dr. Varix answered gently. You are safe, soldier. You are on Zithera in the royal palace. Elias tried to move, but his body felt heavy. His hands trembled as if they didn't belong to him. I was fighting. The princess. Is she safe? From behind the glass wall, Queen Seraphine stepped forward. Her calm voice carried through the chamber. Yes, she lives. You saved her. Elias turned his head toward her. For a moment his eyes met the Queen's. Something passed between them, something wordless, a quiet recognition of sacrifice and gratitude. He tried to salute, but his body was too weak. Then, my duty is done, he whispered before falling back into unconsciousness. The human returns. It took several days for Elias to recover. The royal healers worked tirelessly, using both human medicine and Zalari biotechnology. His wounds were healed, but his body was not quite the same. He noticed strange marks on his arms, faint lines glowing beneath his skin like silver veins. Dr. Varix explained, The Queen used advanced energy to bring you back. You are part human, part Zalari now. The process saved your life, but it changed you. Elias didn't know what to say. Part Zalari? He murmured, staring at his reflection. Then I'm not human anymore. The Queen entered the room at that moment. You are still human, Elias, she said gently. Perhaps even more than before. For no machine could create the courage you carry in your heart. Her voice was calm, but there was warmth in her eyes. A kind of respect she rarely showed anyone. Elias bowed his head. I don't understand, Your Majesty. Why would you bring me back? I already gave my life. Seraphine stepped closer, her expression unreadable. Because some lives are too precious to lose. You saved my daughter. Now I have returned what was taken from you. Elias hesitated, his thoughts swirling. He remembered the fire, the screams, and the last thing he saw. The princess crying as he fell. How long has it been? Almost 6 months, the Queen replied softly. 6 months. Half a year gone in darkness. And yet here he stood, alive again, surrounded by people who once saw humans as weak. The princess's joy, when Princess Leora heard that Elias had awakened. She ran through the palace corridors like a child again. The guards could barely keep up with her. She burst into the recovery room, her golden eyes wide with joy. Elias, you're alive! He turned toward her and smiled faintly. Seems like it. Guess I didn't stay gone for long. She laughed, tears shining in her eyes. You scared me. I thought I lost you forever. Elias tilted his head, a little embarrassed. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to make a habit of dying. The Queen watched from the doorway, her heart softening at the sight. For the first time in years, she saw her daughter truly smile. Leora sat beside Elias, telling him everything that had happened while he was gone, how the Queen ordered his body protected, how Project Dawn had begun, and how many people had tried to stop her. When she told him how her mother defied the entire Galactic Council for him, Elias was stunned. She risked that much. For me? Leora nodded. She said your courage was worth more than all their rules. Elias looked thoughtful. He had always believed he was just another soldier, replaceable, forgotten after death. But now to know that a queen and an empire had fought to bring him back, it was almost too much to believe. Rumors and fears. But outside the palace, not everyone was happy about Elias's return. In the cities below, the people whispered, "The Queen revived a human? What kind of power can bring back the dead?" In the council chambers of other alien empires, the news spread fast. Some were fascinated, others afraid. "If the Zilari can return the dead," one alien ambassador said, "they will rule forever. We cannot allow this." Soon messages began to reach the Queen. Demands, threats, warnings from the Galactic Council, insisting that the resurrection experiment be ended and the human turned over for examination. But Queen Seraphine ignored them all. "Let them talk," she told her generals. "We owe the galaxy no explanation." Still in her heart, she knew conflict was coming. And she also knew that Elias's existence was both a miracle and a danger. Learning to live again, Elias's recovery was not easy. His body felt different, faster, stronger, but unfamiliar. The Zilari scientists tested him carefully. They found that his reflexes were quicker than before, and his body healed from injuries at an incredible rate. He trained again, relearning how to move, fight, and think like a soldier. The palace guards watched him with respect, though some with unease. Leora often came to watch his training. Sometimes she laughed when he stumbled, and he would laugh with her. It was simple, warm, a reminder of what it meant to be alive. But when Queen Seraphine watched from the balcony, her gaze was quieter. She didn't smile, yet her eyes followed every move he made as if making sure he wouldn't vanish again. One night, when he was resting in the gardens, she approached him. The stars reflected in the ponds like tiny candles. "You have changed," she said softly. Elias nodded. "I feel it. Like I'm not fully myself anymore." "You are still you," she replied. "You carry both the strength of your world and the energy of mine." Perhaps this was meant to be. He looked at her curiously. "Do you really believe that?" She paused. "I do not believe in fate, Elias. I believe in choice. You chose to give your life once, and now perhaps you have been given a chance to choose again." Elias was silent for a long moment. Then he said quietly, "Then I choose to fight, not for war but for peace, for what you believed in when you brought me back." Seraphine's expression softened, almost a smile forming on her lips. "Then you honor your name once more, Elias Trent, the man who defied death." A new beginning as days passed. The bond between the Queen, the princess, and the human soldier grew stronger. Together they became symbols of hope, the unity of two species that once stood apart. But the peace was fragile. The Galactic Council had begun moving fleets toward Zythera. They feared the secret of resurrection. They feared the human who had come back from death. Dr. Varix brought grim news. "Majesty, the Council has ordered your surrender. They demand the human and the research data within 10 days. The Queen stood silently, her eyes cold as the void. "They fear what they do not understand. Let them come if they wish to test their fear." Elias stepped forward. "If this is because of me, then I'll face it. I won't hide." Seraphine turned to him, her tone both proud and sorrowful. "You died once for my daughter. I will not let you die again for my mistakes." Elias met her gaze. "Then let's make sure neither of us has to die." "Not this time." And as the stars burned brightly above the palace, the human who had given his life once prepared to protect the Queen and her world again. Not as a soldier of Earth, but as something greater. He was no longer just a man. He was a bridge between species, a symbol of hope, and a reminder that even in a galaxy full of war, the human heart could still defy death itself. The first sign of trouble came in the quiet hours before dawn. Radar stations on Zythera lit up with red blips. a fleet of warships approaching fast from the Galactic Council. They had come not to negotiate, but to enforce their demands. Queen Seraphine stood on the balcony of her palace, the wind stirring her silver robes. Behind her, Princess Leora and Elias watched the horizon, where the black shapes of the fleet moved like a shadow across the stars. "This is more than a warning," the Queen said softly. "They intend to take you and or destroy the palace trying." Elias tightened his fists. "Then we'll stop them. I won't let them touch you or Leora." The Queen turned, her eyes sharp. "You fought once to save her life. Now you will fight to save all of Zithera." Preparing for war, the palace erupted in activity. Starships were readied, soldiers armed, and defensive shields strengthened. Zalari war machines alongside human battalions formed lines in the sky, ready to defend their home. Elias moved among them, checking weapons, giving orders, and inspiring confidence. The humans had fought alongside the Zalari before, but now they were led by one who had literally returned from death, a living legend in the making. In the strategy room, the Queen studied holographic projections of the enemy fleet. Their ships outnumbered Zithera's by more than 2-1. "We cannot rely on strength alone," she said. "We must be clever. We must use strategy, not just weapons." Elias stepped forward. "Then let's take the fight to them where it hurts. Hit their supply lines, cut their communication, force them to react to us." The Queen's eyes met his. "You are not just a human, Elias. You are our greatest hope." The battle begins at sunrise. The enemy fleet entered Zithera's orbit. The sky burned with light as starships clashed, energy beams cutting through the darkness. Explosions shook the palace and the cities below. Elias piloted a small but powerful attack ship, moving with precision and speed that even veteran Zalari pilots admired. He dodged energy blasts, targeted enemy cruisers, and coordinated counterattacks. Beside him, Princess Leora watched the battle unfold from the command center. She called out instructions, helping pilots avoid enemy traps, her voice calm and confident. Even in danger, her bravery matched that of the soldier who had saved her life. In the chaos, the Queen remained at the heart of the palace, coordinating defenses and using her own energy to reinforce the shields. She did not leave the command center, even as the battle raged above. Her eyes constantly flicked to Elias on the battlefield, facing impossible odds by mid-battle. It was clear that the Galactic Council had underestimated the determination of Zithera and its allies. Elias's squadron launched a daring strike into the heart of the enemy fleet. His enhanced human reflexes allowed him to dodge attacks that would have destroyed a regular pilot. One by one, enemy ships exploded under his careful aim, but the victory came at a cost. Enemy bombers slipped past the outer shields and targeted the city below. In moments, a section of the capital was under fire. Civilians screamed and alarms echoed through the streets. Elias realized the Queen's own shield energy couldn't hold the palace forever. He had to act. "Queen Seraphine," he called over comms. "I can get to the city." "I'll hold them off." "No," she snapped, her voice breaking slightly. "You've already risked too much." "I promised Leora I'd protect her," he said firmly. "And I won't break that promise." For a moment, the Queen hesitated, then nodded. She trusted him, even if it meant he would risk himself again. The human hero Elias flew through the burning skies, dodging blasts and debris. He landed in the city streets, confronting enemy squads that had slipped through. He fought with both skill and courage, using his enhanced strength to protect civilians. The Zalari soldiers and human allies joined him, following his lead. His courage inspired them. His bravery reminded everyone why humans could not be underestimated. One squadron leader whispered to a fellow pilot, "He's not just a soldier. He's something more." Elias moved from building to building, saving civilians and pushing the invaders back. Each time he fell, he got up again, refusing to give in to fatigue or fear. Princess Leora, watching from the command center, couldn't hide her admiration. "He's incredible," she whispered. "And he's ours." The Queen's choice back at the palace, the Queen sensed the danger growing. She could feel Elias's energy through the battlefield sensors. He was pushing himself to the limit. She realized that if he fell, he might die again. And this time there would be no second chance. Her heart ached, but she made a decision. She extended her energy through the shield generators, reinforcing Elias's body with her own life force. Her strength flowed through him, guiding him, protecting him, keeping him alive even as he faced overwhelming danger. It was a risky choice. Channeling her power this way could drain her or worse, leave the palace vulnerable, but she did it anyway. When she connected to him, she whispered silently, "You will not die, not while I can hold you." Elias felt a sudden surge of strength and clarity. Blasts that should have injured him glanced off harmlessly. His reflexes sharpened and his attacks became precise and deadly. With renewed power, he led the counterattack that turned the tide of the battle. Victory, but at a cost. By nightfall, the enemy was defeated. The Galactic Council's forces retreated, battered and broken. Zythra was safe on for now. The city was damaged, but most civilians survived thanks to Elias's heroism. Soldiers and citizens alike cheered for him, calling his name in admiration. He had become more than a human soldier. He had become a symbol. But even as the battle ended, Elias stumbled, exhaustion overtaking him. The Queen was immediately at his side, holding him up, channeling her power to stabilize his breathing and heart. "You should rest," she said softly. "You've done enough." Elias looked up at her, sweat and soot covering his face. I couldn't let them hurt you. Or Leora." "You risked your life again," she whispered, a strange mix of pride and fear in her voice. "How many times must you give before I can keep you safe?" He smiled faintly. "I don't know, but I'll keep trying." The Queen's eyes softened almost to the point of warmth. For the first time in years, she let herself feel not just as a ruler, but as someone who had been touched by human courage and selflessness. The quiet after the storm. The next day, the palace was quiet. Soldiers repaired what had been damaged and civilians began returning to their homes. Elias walked through the gardens with Leora, his uniform torn but his spirit strong. She looked up at him, smiling. "You didn't even sleep last night," she said. "I can't believe you're still standing." "I had help," Elias replied quietly, glancing toward the palace where the Queen stood, watching them from a balcony. "Yes," Leora said softly, understanding. "We all do." The Queen, observing from above, smiled faintly to herself. Her heart had made a choice that the stars themselves might judge. She had risked everything to protect a human, a creature from another world, because he had proven the value of courage, honor, and selflessness. She whispered to herself, "You are not just a human, Elias Trent. You are a part of this world now, and I will not let you go." And somewhere deep inside, Elias seemed to sense it. He didn't fully understand her feelings, but he knew one thing. No matter what happened next, he would fight. Not just for survival, but for the trust and care of those who had brought him back from death itself. The stars above Zythera shone brighter that night, reflecting off the ruined but resilient city. The galaxy had witnessed a human who had defied death, twice, and emerged stronger, braver and more alive than any had imagined. And somewhere in the quiet of the palace, the Queen made a promise to herself. No matter what the universe demanded, no one would take him from her or from the princess, not now. Not ever. The price of defiance had been paid, and its cost was heavy. But for Elias, the human who had already given everything, it had forged a bond that not even the stars could break. The sky over Zythera was calm, but the quiet was deceptive. The battle had ended, yet the galaxy had not forgotten. The Galactic Council had retreated, but they were planning their next move. For them, the human who had returned from death was more than a soldier. He was a threat. They feared his courage, his resilience, and the symbol he had become. But inside the palace, a sense of peace had returned. A new Don Elias Trent stood on the balcony of the palace, overlooking the city. The ruins from the battle had been repaired quickly, and life was returning to normal. Children ran through the streets, soldiers practiced their drills, and Zythera's citizens began to rebuild what had been lost. Princess Leora appeared beside him. Her eyes were bright, her expression calm. "It feels different now," she said. "As if the city itself knows we survived something impossible." Elias nodded. "We did survive, but only because we fought together. Not just humans, not just Zilari, all of us." They watched the first sunrise in weeks, the light glinting off the silver towers of the palace. For Elias, it was a moment of quiet reflection. He had died once, returned to life, and now he saw the beauty in the world he had saved. and the people who had trusted him. The Queen's decision. Inside the palace, Queen Seraphine walked through the halls alone. She paused at the crystal chamber where Elias had once rested. The memory of his near-death haunted her, and yet she felt relief that he had survived the final battle. Her mind wandered to the decision she had made, to risk everything to bring him back, to channel her own life energy to save him during the fight. Many would have called it madness, but she did not regret it. "I will not let him go," she whispered to herself. "He is more than a soldier. He is proof that courage can change the galaxy." Her advisors had protested when she first revived him. They had warned of the consequences. Yet now the halls were filled with hope instead of fear, and the people respected her more for her choice than any law she could have followed. Elias awakens to his role. The next day, Elias met with the human and Zalari leaders. He had become more than a soldier. He had become a symbol of unity between two species. "Your bravery has inspired all of us," said one Zalari general. "You are no longer just a human soldier. You are part of our empire's heart." Elias looked around at the faces of those who had once doubted him. "I did not do this alone," he said. "It was everyone, humans, Zalari, even the Queen herself. We all chose to fight, to survive, and to protect each other." Even as he spoke, he felt the weight of his unique position. He was alive again, part human and part Zalari, enhanced and stronger. He had returned from death, and the world had changed because of it. Princess Leora stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on his arm. "And you are ours now," she said softly. "We will not forget what you have done." Elias met her gaze and nodded. "Then I will stay. For you, for her, and for the people who need me." A growing bond, though the battle was over. The bond between Elias, the Queen, and Princess Leora continued to grow. The Queen began spending more time with Elias, watching his recovery, his training, and his interactions with the people. She did not often show emotion, but there was a softness in her gaze that no one could miss. One evening, she called Elias to the palace gardens. The air was cool, and the stars reflected in the ponds like countless tiny candles. "You have returned from death twice now," she said quietly. "Few would have survived what you endured." Elias looked at her, studying her expression. "And yet here I am, stronger, alive, and ready for whatever comes next." She smiled faintly. "You are not just alive. You are a reminder of something my people have forgotten, that courage, compassion, and sacrifice can exist beyond law and fear." Elias felt a warmth in her words. He did not fully understand it, but he knew that her care for him went beyond duty or respect. It was something rare, something profound. The Council returns. Despite their defeat, the Galactic Council had not given up. Reports arrived that a fleet was assembling near the borders of Zythera, threatening to strike if the Queen did not surrender Elias or the research that had revived him. The Queen gathered her council in the main chamber. "They fear what they do not understand," she said firmly. "And they will always fear a human who can defy death," a council member argued. "Majesty, they will not stop. They will attack. You cannot protect him forever." Seraphine's gaze was unyielding. "Then we will fight, not just to protect one man, but to protect the courage and hope he represents." Elias, standing nearby, felt the weight of the galaxy pressing on his shoulders. "If they come, I'll face them. I won't let them hurt you, or Leora, or anyone on Zythera." The Queen stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You already fought for others once. Now you fight for us all. And this time, you will not fight alone." The final battle, the Council's fleet, arrived weeks later. Massive ships darkened the horizon, their weapons charged and ready. The skies of Zythera were filled with tension, as both sides prepared for a battle that could decide the future of the planet, and perhaps the galaxy. Elias took command of the defense fleet, coordinating human and Zalari forces with precision and courage. His experience, combined with his enhanced abilities, made him nearly unstoppable. In the city below, Princess Leora helped organize evacuations and guide civilians to safety. She stayed close to the Queen, her confidence a reflection of the human who had saved her life. The Queen remained in the command center, her energy reinforcing the planet's shields and supporting Elias from a distance. She could feel every move he made, every risk he took. Her connection to him was deeper than she had ever experienced. The battle raged for hours. Enemy ships fell one by one to the combined human-Zalari forces. Elias led daring attacks, saving soldiers and civilians alike, his bravery inspiring every fighter around him. Elias's moment at the peak of the battle. Elias's ship was struck by a massive energy blast. The hull cracked and alarms blared. For a moment, it seemed as if he might fall once more. But the Queen extended her power, guiding him through the damage, stabilizing the ship and giving him the strength to continue. "You will not die," she whispered, though he could not hear it. Her energy flowed into him, steady and strong. Elias regained control, turning his ship toward the enemy's flagship. With careful precision, he fired the final strike that forced the Council fleet to retreat. The skies cleared. Zithra was safe. The galaxy had witnessed a human who had died, returned, and led a victory that none had thought possible. Aftermath in the calm that followed. The people of Zithra celebrated their defenders. Elias was hailed as a hero, not only for his skill in battle but for the courage and heart he had shown. Princess Leora approached him, her eyes bright. "You did it," she said. "You saved us all." Elias shook his head. "We did it. All of us. And thanks to the Queen, I'm still here." Seraphine, standing a few steps away, watched him with an expression that was part pride, part relief, and part something she did not fully understand. She had given him life twice. First with her choice to preserve him, then with her power to protect him in battle. And now he had proven that her faith was not misplaced. A future together. Weeks passed, and peace returned to the planet. Elias trained new soldiers, sharing his knowledge and courage with both humans and Zalari. He and Leora often walked through the city, talking about Earth, Zithra, and the hope of a future where their two worlds could thrive together. The Queen, though still a ruler with duties and responsibilities, spent more time with Elias than ever. She had realized that the bond between them was not merely one of obligation or gratitude. It was deeper, a connection forged through sacrifice, courage, and trust. One evening, she called him to the palace gardens. The stars reflected in the water, peaceful and still. "You should have been gone long ago," she said softly. Elias smiled faintly. "You wouldn't let me go." Her eyes softened. "And I never will. Not now. Not ever." He nodded, understanding without words. The human who had given his life to save a princess was now part of something larger, part of a story that would unite worlds and inspire generations. And as they stood together beneath the endless sky, they knew that courage, compassion, and selflessness could truly change the galaxy. The legacy of Elias Trent, the story of Elias Trent spread far and wide. Humans and Zalari alike spoke of the soldier who had died, returned, and fought again. He became a symbol of unity, courage, and hope. The Queen's choice to protect him had not only saved a life, but had shaped the destiny of an empire. Together, they had shown the galaxy that bravery and compassion could overcome fear and hatred. And so, under the twin moons of Zithra, the human who once gave his life stood alive, respected, and cherished. A bridge between worlds, a hero remembered not just for his actions, but for the heart he had shown when it mattered most. The eye. Stars above shone brighter than ever, as if the galaxy itself celebrated the courage of one human who refused to let the darkness win.